What's up, my man?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you, man. It's been a little while.
Likewise. Ready to ready to hop into this today. Oh my goodness,
That's
coming in hot.
coming in
Like
hot,
I feel
man.
like always anymore.
I like the timing of this, and for everyone listening, like we usually film 3:15 past 3 Eastern time, and I feel like it's just the perfect time to like take a breath. Usually, we're done with meetings. There might be a couple after this, but in most cases, the perfect time we've come to find to take a breath, do a bit of retrospect, and just talk about anything and everything, which is such a blessing. We get a forum like this just to like spill our brains, which is kind of nice.
Yep, I love it. It's a great decompression and also a little bit of a way to zoom out and look at things at a macro level,
Yeah.
kind of reassess where we're at in life.
Literally, like not even just professionally. We can talk about this a little later, but I was just doing like some deep meditation at like 1 p.m. today. So I've got like a different frame of mind, like kind of like zoomed out of work right now and in a totally different space, which is great too, just to like recenter myself. But yeah, just an awesome time every Friday that we get whenever we do get to meet to record, and excited just to catch up with you, and hopefully we can share some nuggets with those listening as well. Um, so yeah, welcome everybody to another episode of the Growth Authentic podcast. Yeah, we really, gosh, it's been a little over a year now since we started this, and um, I mean, I guess in terms of genre, it's professional and personal development for us. And along that journey, so many things change. Um, us as humans, the industries that we're in, and yeah, it's really just an uncut um, time for us to kind of spill our knowledge, our shortcomings, the ways in which we're trying to become better. And so we hope that, for those who have listened to an episode in the past, have found it valuable. For anyone listening for the first time, that's sort of where we're at. Yeah, should we do a quick intro? I feel like we haven't reintroduced ourselves. Maybe if there is someone listening in for the first time. Shane, do you want to do a quick intro on your business, like professionally, personally, just to get everyone sort of on the same page here?
Yeah, that sounds great. It
Cool.
has been a little while, man. We're coming 2 year mark will be in the not so distant future here as we
Yeah.
head into the second half of this year. And yeah, for everybody out there, my name is Shane Chalupa. I am a mechanical engineer by education and experience for over a decade doing projects across the world for energy, oil and gas, chemical production, all kinds of fun stuff. And then over the last number of years here, we have built out our own business called Obnovit, Obnovit. So some people trips them up a little bit. It's just Obnovit. And yeah, so we started that out as an engineering consulting firm, and we started to integrate AI in the early days with the initial Chat GPT releases, and fought through all the fun stuff like not being able to run calculations, adding, multiplication, all of that, and have since then systematized our AI integration and now help other engineering powered companies integrate AI into their businesses. And we really just take our approach is relatively simple. I have two main driving philosophies. One is a crawl, walk, run, sprint methodology, meaning there's a lot of flash and folks out there. Um, there's a lot of hype, let's put it. And so what we really do is go back to the foundations, because we find most users of AI today suffer from a severe lack of fundamental training. And so a lot of times their experience is hindered by that. So we start at the basics, work our way up, and then from a organizational change management and transformation perspective, we actually just use a industry standard kind of rigorous project workflow for integrating AI. And we start out with kind of an assessment and then early win pilot projects combined with some education to ignite the embers and get things going, and then fan that out into a little bit more of a raging fire to expand throughout the company through adoption, and then building out the more complex, more things that more represent what is somewhat hyped today. But you can't really get there unless you have good foundation to build upon. So that's what we're all about. And outside of work, I like to golf and snowboard and spend time with my family. So yeah, it's just been a great experience, and happy to have anybody new here, and always looking to engage and talk about the topics of AI, independent of and or inclusive of engineering, and just expand from there.
Guys, and I would really go back a year, go on your podcast platform of choice and listen to one of the podcasts from 10 months ago, 11 months ago, because Shane really um, is a living example of finding a problem, finding the best solution available at that time, and bringing that value that he experienced for his business and bringing it onto others. It didn't happen overnight. It took many, many months, right? To learn new skills, to adapt it to different scenarios. And now I feel like one of the bigger changes is that these models just change so frequently. There's new things to learn about, and also things to sort of pump the brakes on. Like, this might not be worth the time, and it might take you away from something that's a little bit more important or a little bit more pressing.
Mm.
Um, Shane, yeah, like, it's so cool to see the arc of not only our podcast but the content of our podcast, because it just shows the growth in this sense, more on like the professional side of things, to yeah, learn about AI, apply it, and then bring it to other companies and other people, which is yeah, such a cool journey to be a part of. So definitely go back, listen to an episode from like a year ago. Should be a really good pre and post listen.
Yeah, I appreciate all of that. And yeah, we let's go with your intro. And I've got, of course, some insights from rewind back to 10, 12 months ago with you as well. There's been some fun, really, when you look at it at that time scale, you can see some significant change, which is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, in short, on the professional side of things, I've been in the search engine optimization space for about 14 years. When Shane and I reconnected, and was kind of the growth and the birth of this podcast, I was about 2 years into starting my own SEO consultancy. Um, and so, all in all, it's been about 3.5 years since I started Keyrise Consulting. We're now a team of three. And the growth and the challenges that I've had to endure, and just the amount of learning that I had to do over the last 3.5 years, is an education that I can't really put a price on. And so, going from, a practitioner, working corporate, then, starting up my own shop, the work is the same in the sense that obviously there's always changes within the industry, but then there's this whole other side of owning and operating a business that provides the actual service, that has been such a fun, at times aggravating and stressful and frustrating experience. And yeah, so professionally, that's what I do. I own and operate an SEO, and now, with AI search being so present in daily search behavior, we are spending a lot of time understanding how do we track, assess, and action against um, the goals and desires of a lot of our clients to be more visible in those ecosystems. So, yeah, it keeps me up. Every day is filled with new challenges, and it's certainly busy. But I think Shane, you can attest to this too. Being able to call your own shot is a blessing. I'm so grateful to be in the position that I'm in, and to use this platform to share a little bit about that experience, and whether it is owning and operating your own small business, or tips and tricks and learnings that I'm picking up during this crazy time of SEO and GEO. It's really awesome to have this platform. Outside of that, on the personal side of things, based out in New Jersey, live with my wife. I'm also into golf. I'm a big you guys will come to know if you guys continue to listen on. We are, both Shane and I are very much into fitness right now because it's so beautiful out, and the pool just opened in our apartment. Doing a lot of swimming, which has been really, really nice. Um, and yeah, just trying to keep active. I'm also a Christian. I'm deeply spiritual. We also get into a lot of spiritual talk, believe it or not, on this podcast as well. So, yeah, we got a lot of range amongst the two of us here. Um, and yeah, if you ever want to engage, um, you know, around SEO, GEO, or just, want to pick my brain around starting your own SEO consultancy, I'm most active on LinkedIn. You can find me at Sam Lee, and the company name is Keyrise Consulting.
Nice. Yeah. And I think back to some of our earlier conversations when we were standing up the podcast. And one quick note on that is like the origins to rehash that is like, I was going out and starting up Obnovit, and Sam was into Keyrise, and we were having these like Zoom calls. And then I think one day we both were just like, you should we just like start recording and posting these? Like I feel like other people would get some value out of this. And so we spent a little bit of time, and we created a few really lean files to help like organize our thoughts, and then we launched this baby. And yeah, I think the other big part of it has just been consistency and going back to the roots of like we're really authentically just tracing our growth. As the business of course is a big part of it for each of us, but I think it's also just our personal development, kind of in a to use like a maybe early or mid 2000s or 20 teens term, like vlogging. We're kind of
Yeah.
podcasting our way through this, and it's just been awesome to see that journey and that arc. And I know when we first started talking, I think there were some conversations where you had said like, I don't know if I want to expand and grow this out to have other employees, or if I want to
Right.
just keep it on myself. And then eventually maybe even there was talks of a pivot at some point into something else that you're interested in. But to see that evolution has just been incredible. And the growth, I mean, what a cool time for both of us in our industries. But I think, right now SEO and GEO, everybody is just like, I don't want to say scrambling, but it's like it's a whole new frontier, right? And trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. And so it's just, I think it's an opportune time, and you're seizing on that moment. So it's been fun to be along for that journey.
Yeah, I think and maybe we can steer it this way. I mean, we can always go whichever way we want. But one thing that came to mind was like the power of just like speaking things out. Um, like me personally, and I mentioned, being a Christian and like being very spiritual. I think a lot of people, in that share the same faith as I do, we suffer from like praying in our minds, or like
Hmm.
thinking about our prayers and like our desires. But more recently, I've been like audibly praying and also writing my prayers. And I think that action, similar to like what you and I do on this podcast, right? Like sometimes we don't even have like completely thought out like theories, or it's just like still formulating and like bubbling in our minds, but we just try to sound out what we're feeling or what we're desiring to do. And I think there's so much power in that. Um, And I think an example of that is what you just brought up. I distinctly remember saying, like, the thing that burned me out the most working in this industry was managing other people. And I was so, and I had such a binary mindset at that time of like, if that burns me out, it's an absolute no. But then over time, thinking about it, talking to my wife about it, talking to you about it, um, allowed me to figure out like it's not so binary, right? And so now we're at a point where, um, the consultants on my team, they are autonomous, right? They are as, if not more experienced than I am. And so there is no managing. There is no, those things that burn me out that I thought always came with having another team member, another member on the team. Like that became so untrue. And who knows, maybe I never would have gotten to this point of like growing an actual team within my consultancy if it wasn't for this type of conversation that I can sort of sound out my thoughts, my half baked thoughts. That might lead to a dinner table conversation with my wife of like, hey, Shane and I talked about this, right? So I think there really is some power um, to talking things out, even if you are like me, where you're very hesitant about sharing your opinion unless you've really like made sure that there are no holes to your opinion, which is outrageous to think, right? Yeah, I think there's really power in being uncomfortable and vulnerable enough to share random thoughts and continue to evolve those thoughts as you go along your journey.
Yeah. Oh man, the power of writing things down, journaling, and then also talking and just putting things out there into the universe is really how ultimately things get magnetized and happen in your life. And we have talked so much about that of in your mind. I mean, think first for a lot of people out there is that they over time have just lost the ability to or blocked the ability to dream and let their mind wander and say what if. And so I think that that is a really good first starting point, is to identify if you don't like the situation that you're in, you have to identify that the only limitation in your life is set by what you have in your mindset. And um, those beliefs that you carry around, it's really three parts, I would say, is thoughts, actions, and beliefs. And so if your thoughts and your beliefs are constrained, then your actions are just going to be constrained by that, and you're going to kind of be limited. But if you want to grow and expand and do things that you only dreamed of and that you see on Instagram and that you see on YouTube and that you see on TV, there's the only limitation is really what you have in your mind around it. And
Yep.
the journey is not linear, and it's not going to be fully baked and spelled out for you. But if you at least allow yourself to start first dreaming about that next level and that next state, and then you get into starting to write it down, and then you start talking about it, and then it starts to become this new, almost these new thoughts and beliefs and persona, and you have the ability to change that. And that's been one of my biggest takeaways over the last few years, is that I think so many people say like, well, you get, I would say, out of probably like high school, maybe college for some, but like you get out of that period, you go into the working world, and you kind of just say like, well, I am the way I am because that's the way it is. And I just am this way, and you feel like your personality is set, and you feel like your persona is set, and your life is set, and your thoughts and your actions and belief are all set. And when in reality, all of those are malleable, all those situations can change. And the people who have achieved or have whatever you want to strive towards, they just overcame those blocks in their mind first, and that's really where it starts. So this podcast has been a fantastic place to, again, talk out those things out loud, I think, for both of us, and see things and opportunities and gain insights to start ultimately, right, manifesting what it is we want. So
Yeah, dude, and like I think we need to be really like in where we are at in our journeys as like entrepreneurs, protecting. So you mentioned like thought, dream, and action, right? When you mention thought, because I'm like experiencing this right now, like protecting what shapes your thoughts and dreams is so hard and so critically important. And like it can happen like in very slow increments where you look back and it's been like 5 months, and the things that have shaped your thoughts and dreams are now being dictated by something else, something that shouldn't be in in your mind or in your heart or wherever in your spirit, right? um, Taking stock of that from time to time, like that is so important. I think like when you're first starting something, you're really protective, so you're almost like too protective of like the things that you're feeding your mind and your time and energy. But once you hit like I'm just speaking for myself and my experience, 3.5 years in, I am definitely in a place right now where I'm kind of taking a step back and taking stock again of like, all right, am I really self aware of like my why? Am I getting a little too ahead of myself and reaching for things that I shouldn't be reaching for? Um, and yeah, I think for me, I realized that when you have momentum and you're building and things are happening the way that you envisioned it to happen, sometimes you can get lost in the success. There's like I'm afraid of like a moment in time soon where I'm going to be completely humbled, like all my knock on wood, all my clients canceling. Um, but I think I've this week, like this is very recent, like this week, I noticed myself not being self aware enough, to feeding myself the wrong mantras, the wrong ideals, and honestly, just not being in a place of humility. Um, yeah, and if hopefully this speaks to someone out there, because yeah, I feel like when you're in the throes of building something and you're starting to build momentum, that's also a really dangerous place to be in. Yeah, because you get sort of blinded and tone deaf to like what's happening, what's truly happening with your business. I don't know if that made sense, but again, I'm just trying to sound out some things that I'm feeling right now, and yeah, I'm just, and that goes back to like me spending time today of like just sort of cutting out a lot of distractions, um, and going back to, and I've talked about this a lot, like the four quadrants that I have, but going to that number one quadrant of like my faith and making sure that I'm foundationally in a good place. And I really haven't, I just haven't been. So hopefully this is a good kind of jumping off point to like start the second half of the year in a much better, in a much more focused and like having a clearer vision on who I need to be, what I need to focus on.
yeah, I mean that's I think the internal struggle of it's interesting, right? I feel like it's the internal struggle of a lot of folks. But they're again back to this whole notion around getting, I would say a lot of it probably happens again, I think in high school into getting through college or just going into the workforce and like getting into this societal railroad tracks almost, where you're just kind of doing what everyone else does. And you're doing it because that's just the way that it is, right? Like you're probably your parents, your family members, people around you, like that's just the way it is. And when you're in that state, and when I look back at it, I was again doing, work W2 job for, gosh, what, 12, 13 years, and very little dreaming. Like I got to do a lot of activities and things that I enjoyed, but I was not really dreaming bigger than what my current kind of role and the career path and the ladder was. And I look back at that, and it was a very like stable and almost like content time, but there was not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
growth happening. So I think for a lot of people who are either starting or on their personal growth journey towards fulfilling their highest potential, whatever that means for you, right? Spiritually, from a faith perspective, from your impact as a human on the rest of the world, whatever you want to think about it. But I would say for most people who do start that journey and kind of break out of that shell of societal norms, then you end up having a lot of internal conversations, and you're continuously looking at almost that North Star, evaluating your spirituality. What does life mean? And I have, yeah, the similar thoughts and feelings multiple times a day, right? Of like having to, for me lately, it's just been reminding myself, like, look, life is short in the grand scheme of things, and there's not really anything that matters all that much except for trying to be as present in the current moment as possible and take out the maximum experience that you can from any given moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been something that I've been going back to, and tied to that, I think, is it's been coming up a lot more is, oh, I don't remember the formal name of it, but basically every day, one section in my journal is what I call looking back. And basically I'm at my funeral and or kind of like you know, after death, right? And I'm looking back at talking to myself kind of, and also to like what are the people there saying and doing, and and then just kind of writing down what I feel like the advice that person after death would give to me now. And a lot of it, when I come back to that, is like, look, like there's so many things that don't really matter, and like focus on the things that are right in front of you, and kind of, there's the saying of like, be where your feet are, and really just trying to enjoy that to the maximum extent possible. And tied to that is also like keeping your why at the kind of that North Star
Yep.
at the forefront. And so I know we both have similar frameworks around, you know, you have your quadrants. I have kind of like 6 buckets that I always journal about that are important to me, and goals around that. And so the last piece of that, I think, is also that I need to do a better job reminding myself is John Maxwell has said that I think he's had interviews, and my coach Dan has talked to him and said, and he said, like, how did you, to John, how did you like accomplish all of this? Like, how did you stay driven? And he said, when you basically have to have a goal so big that it's out of this world, and out of our normal realm of comprehension of a God-sized goal. And so I try and come back to that pretty often of like having a goal that is just so big out there to go after that it continuously drives you in your day to day when things get tough, or when you're kind of feeling a little bit off track, like that North Star of, you know, making it bigger than you could ever possibly imagine to, and think for him, from his perspective and from mine, is like the maximum impact that you can have positively on other people, right? And that
Yep.
search for meaning as a human.
And like the more that you ask of yourself, if you're doing it the right way, then you're going to invest in the other areas of yourself and in your relationships that much more. Um, yeah, it's so funny that like I think everything you said is just a perfect capture of um, sort of what like this season of kind of humility I'm calling it right now for myself that I'm going through, and it's totally true, man. Like you have to set audacious goals, and like at the surface level there's other benefits to that, right? Like why wouldn't you want the thing that you're working on, the business that you're working on, to be as successful as possible, right? But I think there's other things that are like arguably more important, right? As a tangible example, and we've talked about this a lot, like treating our bodies as like a high performing athlete, right? For us to be able to handle um, the difficulties and kind of growing the resilience that you need to own and operate a business. Like the more that you want to do for your business, the more that you need to treat your body even that much better. So that's more like a very tangible, pretty like superficial, I guess, example, but we can get very deep about this too, right? Like the relationships that are so integral to making you the right person or a better person, um, to be the best version of yourself to lead a business like that. We can get very, very deep, very spiritual about this as well. But you're absolutely right. Like I'm not sure if it starts with setting that audacious goal, but I can certainly attest to having that audacious goal definitely has really impactful, like trickle down effects to the important things and people and relationships in your life. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's that reminded me of the quote that is like along the lines of the best self development and help exercise you can ever do, and like best personal growth thing you can ever do is like go start and build a business. Because it will, I mean, at a fundamental level, it is one of the, I think there's probably two arenas, well, maybe three. If I were to say like three arenas where you could really test and just become completely exposed, I would say one is in any type of athletic endeavor is number one, and even at that in that case like an artistic endeavor too,
True.
where you're trying to do something that very few people do, and it's going to challenge you physically and maybe even like from a creativity standpoint. And then there is possibly like a spirituality side of that. And then the only other thing that I can think of outside of that is starting a business, and like the trajectory of what you can do is directly correlated when you're kind of early stages. The growth is directly correlated to your personal shortcomings, and so how
Right.
fast can you address those shortcomings through self-development and or hiring and identifying your weaknesses and bringing in the right people. And that, to your point about that all flowing out into the rest of your life, is completely true. Because ultimately as you're improving, then that flows into your relationships and into whatever else you're doing outside of it. So it is not for the faint of heart, but it is very noble in a way of, it's certainly not about accomplishing all the things for kind of the materialistic side. Those are great, like that's great benefits to come, and tertiary things. But I think the real benefit that you have to look at and always kind of remind yourself is like the development and growth journey that you're on.
Yeah.
It's it's huge.
Isn't it so like oxymoronic? Like the phrase that I kept thinking of for myself was like, "You're such," and this talking to myself internally, like, "You're such a weak leader." Not saying that like your leadership is weak, but you need to understand your weaknesses to be a good leader, right? Like you need to know your shortcomings to grow this business. Um, in so many ways, I feel like it's two polar opposites that sort of combine to help you, do what you want to do, whether it's professional or personal. I was also thinking like probably one of the other arenas where, um, outside of like what you mentioned around like athletic or artistic or spiritual or business, it's probably marriage or like growing a
Hmm.
family. Like that's all about what are your shortcomings, how does the other people within your family fill those shortcomings, how do you work on your own shortcomings. Yeah, man, I mean that's got to be the most relatable thing in everyday life that exposes you, right? And if you don't work on it, man, good good luck with that. You
Yeah.
got to be
Oh, for
always
sure.
working.
That is a great point. Because like yeah, wrapped inside of like the relationships piece, right?
Yes. Yep.
That's those relationships, parenting and being a spouse and a partner for sure. That is another arena to really test your growth. And um, there was a circling back a little bit to the this notion of like kind of being at your funeral and life is short and don't take anything too seriously is I saw a post. I'm a pretty big Alex Hormozy fan, and he had a post the other day about it where it was like, ultimately, like, this is what's most likely going to happen at your funeral is like a bunch of people that know you, don't know you that well, but know you, are going to be there, and they're going to be talking to some people who know you really well, and they're going to be giving condolences, and then they're going to do that for a little while. They're going to make a short, like, I think he said like 500 to 1,000 word little speech about you, and then they're all going to go and probably eat some food, and then they're all going to drive home and get up and go to work the next day. And so, like, the whole premise of that was like, man, don't take it too seriously.
Right.
And it's also that kind of springboarded me into another topic about kind of our reintroduction here today is one of the so at a macro level, building out your business, what we call the business brain for, or your context library or vault for your business. And personally, one of those files is the founder story, and a big part of the big bang, I'll call it, for me and Obnovit and Mary and I getting in starting this was my manager at the time. I was in W2, big Fortune 500. My direct manager, this would have been 4 years ago now, like almost 4 years ago to the day. Um, we were at work that morning, and my manager was like, went from the Navy, so like he never missed meetings and things like that. And so all of a sudden he wasn't there that morning. He was like, this is odd. Wasn't there that day. This is odd. Wasn't there the next day. This is odd. And then we got news that he had passed in a tragic biking accident. And so, and he had kids
Jeez.
that were like teenagers at that point. And having seen like the way, he was very engrossed in his work, which was great, but also seeing that you get trapped a little bit in that world, and man, just was like a slap in the face for me of like, life is so short, and the next day is not guaranteed. And I try to continuously remind myself, but it's really hard when you're caught in the moment to have that. But that was one of the big bang moments for us to really say like, wow, this is short. We need to design our life and take control of it, and not just be kind of in autopilot in the societal tracks,
Yeah.
and redesign what we're doing. So, as my like a big theme, I think, for this session so far has been kind of, don't take yourself too seriously. Remember that this is short, and it's an infinite game that you want to just kind of keep playing is the goal.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, look, you mentioned the second brain. Got me thinking about AI a little bit. Do you want to give a quick
Top of
update? Do you
yeah,
want
top of mind.
yes. A little Freudian slip, maybe.
Oh man, yeah. We'll switch it up from like spirituality and your North Star kind of why over to like how this is all kind of getting intertwined, right, and get technical. But man, what I'm seeing out there is a pretty big, I don't want to say gap or divide, but like, I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a program with Callan Faulkner, and her business is just completely blowing up as far as AI education goes. Like,
Amazing.
actually 10x, 12xing year over year, which is insane. Like 8 figures this year for sure. And she's our one and only guest that's been on the podcast. So you can go back and look through our set list for the podcast I did with Callan. But a phenomenal person. And this gap that I'm alluding to is using AI in like a technical, almost like dry fashion, I would say. And people are just kind of using it at face value. And there's benefit to be had there. But I have seen a lot of people go to the complete next level, like her and others in the program, by using AI to actually augment and support the human growth side of development, like in a huge way, like quantum leap way. And so that has been so cool to see, and how we approach kind of training and integrating AI. And there's like the logistics and the data and the context and all of that. That's very kind of techy, and can be a little bit off putting for some who aren't as techy. But when we start to couple in the human growth aspects and leveraging the best principles and frameworks that match your lifestyle, and a lot of the authors and concepts that they have out there publicly on YouTube and stuff, when you start integrating that into your AI practice, it just goes to the next level. And we're in the process of kind of building out all of these fundamental files that make up the company brain, and right now that's mostly my second brain at the time. But figuring out how do we roll that out and then have it such that all of our employees can leverage their AI tool, pulling from the same context of about us for the company, my founder story. And these files are just they're like the building blocks, the foundation of being able to allow, whether it be other humans with AI tools or agents, to do things and have the right context, and really unlocking the power. But it's, there's a lot of work to be done before you get to that point of just getting all this information and data and cleaning it and organizing it and all of that. So it's been fun. It's been exciting right now.
That's like ninja level status. I think there's so many steps in between, and I mean, you're a great partner to have, especially folks in the engineering space to help sort of guide and educate through the the journey, the foundational journey you need to be able to start thinking about, what does a second brain look like for me, and how does that actually work, right? Because to some people it can feel so theoretical, but it's actually pretty damn tangible. Like you can see it,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah.
But to get to that point, like I think we had to, and you especially, you had to overcome these, like, I wouldn't say fear moments of fear, but it's the fear, not sorry, not the fear, but it was just this moment of like unknown, and you had
Yep.
to kind of dig your way through it, learn your way through it, and then once you made it to the other side, you would look back and think like, oh my god, uploading a spreadsheet and asking Claude just to analyze that seems so dated now. And then it was like the next thing, right? And I think there's definitely levels to this, but um, the speed in which you can learn, it's so fast now. Whether it is someone like you that helps kind of usher people through that, or using AI to learn things at a rapid speed. But that's so cool to talk. I talked to some other people about that. The idea of like potentially licensing out your brain, right? Like there's so many fun applications to theorize and think about that a lot of, I think, like 0.00001% of knowledge workers or just um, technology fluent people are sort of using. So it's a very small minority of the minority that are at that level. So let's not all be like, oh my God, I'm behind the eight ball right now. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of cool things that are being done right now.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, it is such a small portion of folks out there that are kind of this deep into it, and it's
Yeah.
fun being at that level. It can be anxiety inducing at times, but to your point, and as a really just tangible example of learning and how fast and different it is, because so 2 weeks ago now, just about, I took my first proctored exam for the first time since 2016. So October 2016. So we're almost 10 years since I took, a formal certification exam. The last one was for my professional engineering license, full day, all that fun stuff. So this one was actually for the Claude Claude Code Architecture
Oh, nice.
Foundations program, and so CCAF. And I was prepping for that, and you it was incredible because the work process was so different than it used to be. Like before, I would be go search online, find other people's study guides, sit there and read it. Now it was so interactive because I was able to, number one, take a practice exam just cold based on assess what I know, right? And I was like a 50% out of the score, and you need like a 72-ish% to pass. So I was like, okay, 50%. Then I was able to just look at all the stuff that I didn't get right and then use Claude in this case to analyze it and figure out what the pattern was. Well, we automatically knew there was like six primary categories for the questions. And so we pinpointed, okay, these two areas are where you're weakest. So then I was able to focus my studies on that, go find the materials, and then have Claude take all the material and put it into just like simple one-page study guides that I could do, and then take another practice exam, do that process again, and then just keep doing that. And it was incredible how fast and how quick I was able to study for that, and then ultimately ended up passing it and getting the certification, which was really cool. Um, so, but man, it's a
It's awesome.
totally different experience now going through any type of like educational and then testing cycle compared to what it used to be. And, you know, with things like what's now formerly Notebook LM and now Gemini Notebook, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do so much to get things the way that you want it and work with you as a human. So there's never been a better time to learn and grow right now, for sure.
Yeah. Like I just wrapped up a pretty meaty project with a client, and like I would not have been able to do this without Claude. Um, all the way to the end point of like putting an SOP together. I could probably just create a skills for this now, for it to just be done at scale for any type of client. But yeah, like we can send over like a leave behind material of like everything that we architected, an SOP if they want to recreate things. Damn near was thinking like, damn, should I just sell some sort of like AI course right now to teach them about what I did to do this? Like
Yeah.
it was getting very meta. But yeah, the amount that you can learn, whether it is client facing or something more internal like a certification, man, like you don't have any excuse to not learn something that's important for what running a business or whatever the case may be.
100%. 100%. There's like
Yeah.
no better, no faster time out there right now. And like I also am definitely aligned with the ethos for especially come from Anthropic and Claude, right? Is like they had, I don't know if it was the Super Bowl or one of their slogans is like there's never been a worse time to be a problem. And like I feel that and live that every single day because it's like the things that used to be barriers just are not anymore. And so the only difference between those accelerating right now and really seeing those big gains is the people who are investing in learning and trialing and just doing it, and then those who are avoiding it right now.
Yeah. Cool, man. If you guys didn't realize, this podcast can really go, and it goes in so many different ways, but it is all so interconnected in so many different ways. Um, yeah, it's such a fun time to sort of sound things out. Obviously, get some like tangible updates too, in the space of AI and SEO. But yeah, man. I mean, we're coming up on the hour here, Shane. I mean,
Yeah.
anything else?
No more closing thoughts. I got a lot of stuff out there, and but yeah, any let's have some closing words from you on this one. Close it out here.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and this is again just coming from, there's a little bit of recency bias for me because this has just been so top of mind and front and center of my heart. Um, and this can apply to, I think, anyone and everyone. Think, take a moment to kind of take stock of like what you're feeding yourself, right? Like not food, but like, and it could be social media, but it could also be like your inner thoughts and the driving forces of like what gets you up in the morning, right? Um, take a moment to do that. I'm doing that. I'm actually doing a 2 day fast starting today, and really in the moments of like true physical hunger, I'm going to put that hunger towards my faith and consume, what fills me spiritually. But in those moments, what I am doing is taking stock of like, what has it been? That's what have I been feeding myself to drive all the things that I'm responsible for every single moment of the day, and also taking stock of how can I consistently remind myself of what to feed myself so that
Mm.
I can be the best version of myself. Of course, the journaling, the meditation, the scripture reading in the morning, like I sort of know those answers, but I want to be in this sort of extended meditative state for the next couple of days, to see if there's any learnings, right? Beyond what my mind is telling me, maybe there's something deeper. Not to make this so like spiritual and like, you know, woo woo, but I don't know, maybe worth giving it a shot. I know, on the Christian, like on the faith side of things, like fasting is a deeply spiritual thing. So we'll see. It's my first time ever doing it. Not saying that you guys need to fast or anything like that, unless you want to do it for health purposes. But yeah, I think that's my kind of lasting kind of takeaway thoughts here is take stock of what's driving you today. And if you're unhappy with that, try to make a change and figure out how you can be consistently reminded of the right way to drive yourself each and every day.
Yeah, no, that's so powerful. Just to take a step back. Good luck with the fast, and
Thanks,
it'll
man.
be great to get together next episode and see what insights you gain from that experience.
100%.
And
Oh, I'll be ready. I'll be ready.
that's fantastic. Well, yeah, enjoy. This was a awesome episode again, like usual here. Kind of pulling it all together, and I think for all those people out there, maybe there's not. I don't think there's enough woo woo going on. I think people are just living in the social media era and forgetting a little bit about what it means to connect as a human in society and spiritually in this universe, and what that all means. So maybe everybody out there, go enjoy a little bit more woo woo before you decide to do that in your life.
I love that. Well, thanks as always, my man. Appreciate your time and your knowledge. And yeah, until the next one, yeah, take care, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.